All right, nobody here, all by myself. Right at the beginning of the stream, that's always the weird part where I have to sit here and wait, see if anybody shows up. It's Friday live stream, and I'll just wait, see if anyone decides to join. 2 people, all right. Got some folks here, I'm not alone anymore. Welcome to the live stream. Hey Rocket, I decided that I wanted to do a live stream after that premiere. I just wanted to keep talking with you guys, talk about mini stuff. Hey Mark Price, welcome. Let's see here. Hey Alistair. Hey Tom, thanks for joining the live stream. So I figured I'd spin this up and see if we can continue the charity drive. All of the super chat things that you guys might do in this chat are going to go straight to Alzheimer's research. So if you are interested in supporting that, it is here in the U.S., but Alzheimer's research is Alzheimer's research. So hopefully you feel like donating and being generous today. Tom, you removed the hood and your windshield. That's nice. I don't know what those words are that you're using. They're made up. And then you're going to go to the store, use a cash register. Yeah, till. What is till? Tom, the trunk. The trunk. I think you guys are I think you just probably need to learn how to speak English. You probably don't know very much about the English language. It really started here in America. Can you guys hear my heater? Is it really loud? Because it's cold as shit in here, and I don't want to turn it off. Hey Josh. Hey Essex Mini. Give me just a minute here, I'm adjusting my tripod. Good, I'm glad that heater is cold. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, right on the money there. Here it is in the States, so we use a sidewalk. Because we're so cricket dumb? Yeah. Hey, learn to spell, man. Hey, Mark, welcome to the live stream. So what questions do you have for me? Are you curious about projects that are upcoming? Do you have anything wrong going on with your car you want some help with? I just got a haircut, so I'm nice and fresh for all of your questions. Simon says, Happy New Year. Take a second, look around. Your shop, you made huge progress in 2018 from that drafty old closet it used to be. Yeah, you aren't kidding. Like, it was literal just studs, wall studs, and a $11 pegboard from Home Depot, which, gotta admit, it worked pretty well for a long time. But this is much more organized, and of course, got my brand new toolbox. Very excited about that. Tom asks, how long is my shaft? Well, I don't have my main shaft here with me right now, so I can't measure it, but you can be assured it's quite small. Nowhere near as big as your main shaft. Rocket, will you be doing a video on rewiring the Mini? I probably won't, not anytime in the near future. Tom has that new Clubman on Total Car Reviews. I bet he's gonna have to rewire that thing. Maybe you can bug him about it. I just can't see myself rewiring my car. It's already got a pretty new wiring loom on it. I mean wiring harness. I did not mean to say loom. Damn it. Mark Price says, how far have you got with the 998 Cooper engine? So let me get this box of stuff down here. Oh, that's heavy. Okay, so I don't have the engine back yet, but I do have new clutch cover. That's still seized in there. I meant to ask them to take that out. That's gonna have to take some work. Transfer case, looking super fly. And then all of the other kind of random bits and bobs in here, which I'll just kind of lean that over. They all got glass blasted and like dipped in some sort of acid solvent. I don't really know what all they did, but it's looking pretty good. I mean, all these parts are really, really fresh. That's gonna look good going back on the car. But the engine itself, hang on. But the engine itself still needs some work. They just got the specs for it, and I think they got to do some like honing and checking out all the different stuffs about the motor to make sure it works right. Let's see, what other questions? Alex says, when you're nipping Texas, whatever that means, nipping, go see Randy, he's only a few blocks away. Yeah, it's just a quick 14-hour drive to his house. Tom, you want to see my trash can? My trash can's so heavy I can't actually get it out right now. There's so much old metal in there. Connor McBride says, any experience with a charcoal canister? We'll be deleting mine soon to clean up the engine bay on my 1275 carb motor, and not sure about the hoses off of the carb. Charcoal canister? Like for like your breathers or something? Tom, I do have to admit that motor is not correct. I know that motor is like an electric motor, so like your windshield wiper motor. But I just get it mixed up. I just use them interchangeably. Motor, engine, engine, motor. All right. Jack says hello. Wavy hand. Hello, Jack. Tom, what lube do you recommend? Well, it depends on the situation, if you know what I mean. Essex Mini says, total respect to you, Cole, for taking the English heckling like a boss. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. You guys are a bunch of wild and crazy people over there, so. Dave says, Cole, ignore Tom and Alex, I think they're drunk. Yeah, I know, I've been watching their channel. I think Tom turned Scottish in one of his Instagram stories recently. Alistair says, you mentioned getting a pickup. Any thoughts on what you would want to do with it? With the pickup, it'd actually be really cool to put one of the like supercharged or turbocharged 998s in it. I think that that's like the perfect displacement with some kind of rowdiness that would make the pickup pretty fun. David Hall says, would you consider building up a 60s style BMC factory rally car tribute or replica in the not too distant future? I don't think that I could afford to do that this year, but maybe in 2020, maybe. I'd have to have more space too, at least to store my Bad Wolf Mini so that I could work on something else in the carport. I don't know, there's a lot of logistics that would have to fall in line first, but there is possibilities. Dave says, we call it pissed, but it has a different meaning in the States. Yeah, I don't know, some people still use pissed here to talk about being drunk, but most of the time it just means going to the bathroom. Trevor says, I need to start watching some videos. I have 3 project cars and not know where to start. What are your 3 project cars, Trevor? Simon says, I'm tuning a 998. Be good to see comparative results between like a stock 998 and like a tuned one or a turbocharged one. What do you mean? Kevin says, so I know you're not doing a turbo, but what about a classic Shorrock supercharger? Is that made by Tom at Total Car Reviews? I'm not familiar with that supercharger. The whole kind of drawback with a boosted motor, whether it's super or turbocharged, is that I would still have to pull the bottom end again. And to basically make piston, I would have to reduce the compression in order to be able to run boost, which is not really something that I want to do, because I'd have to get new pistons, probably. I guess I could take it out of the head too, or a decompression plate, but the decompression plates are icky. Jokerscape says, "Heya from Buckinghamshire, UK." Well, hello there. Well, thanks for joining. Simon says that Cooper engine you're currently rebuilding. So one thing I've actually, I'm actually kind of concerned about is once I get it all done, is trying to run it before I, sell it to somebody, because I'd really like to run in the motor, at least confirm that it is running before I sold it. But I don't have a stand, nor do I really have any place in my carport where I could do that without the neighbors losing their minds. So I don't know. We'll figure that out though. Scott Jones says, "What's everyone's stance on the sunroof on the Mini? That's the biggest gripe I have about mine, plus it leaks." Well, I think it depends on where you are in the US or in the world, really. If it's really rainy, it's probably kind of a pain in the butt. I know that those, they do really have a tendency to leak. Basically, their drains get clogged up and just don't allow the water to drain properly. Ilias says, "Is it true that the Mini SPI wiring goes through the hazard switch because my Mini has issues with the front backlights? Could replacing the hazard switch solve the problem?" Yes, it does go through there. And I don't think it's just the SPI Minis. I think it's just relatively later Minis. Even the carved ones, I'm pretty sure the hazard switch does a lot of stuff. A lot of things go through it. So replacing that might work. George M says, "Just finished building a fast road 1380 with a 12.1 compression, 286 cam. What sort of power am I looking at roughly?" Let me think about that. If I had to take a wild guess, maybe 70 to 80 horsepower. Wild guess. Trevor says, 1989 jet black right-hand drive, 1980 Mini right-hand drive, and 197. That's a really old Mini. Clubman rolling shell left-hand drive. First two have 1275. So you've got a nice little collection there. Kevin Shale says, "Are you still getting grief from your neighbors?" I am not getting grief directly. I have kind of worked with the city a little bit. The guy, the code enforcement person here in Charlotte, was really nice guy. He and I worked out a deal, like kind of a middle ground, and it was basically, when I am working on my car, I'll have it jacked up. I'll use jack stands, but if I'm ever not working on the car, it does need to be on the ground. But he said, it's your property. If they don't like the way the Mini looks in the carport, they can just kind of jog on. He didn't say that, obviously, because that's definitely really British, but he basically just worked with me. So he was a nice guy. Scott Jones says, "Do you have many Riley Elfs or Wolseley Hornets here in the US?" I've seen a few at some of the mini meets. I definitely don't see them around town at all. And most of the posts that I see don't have them. Most of them are minis. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of those. I think they're kind of ugly, but I still think they're cool too. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Mark says, "Would you ever get a Mini Clubman 1275 GT?" Yes, in a heartbeat. I love the front end of the Clubman. I love the front end of the Clubmans. I am pretty jealous of Tom's car, but I'm not jealous of all the welding work he's got ahead of him. Jokerscape says, "Got one sat that needs putting back together. Got a replacement engine, but would like to save the spare." Tom and Alex have fallen asleep, says SX Mini. Yeah, if we're lucky. Frosky Gamer says, it's okay, the 1991 Mini has 300,000 kilometers down and was never opened. That's crazy. I hope it was well maintained, otherwise it kind of, my gut reaction is that that might be a time bomb that's waiting to explode. But if it was maintained well, maybe. I don't know. I'd be thinking about a rebuild relatively soon. Jonathan Ramsdale says, what would you recommend as the first Mini to buy for a daily and the best Mini to make into a race car? Well, any Mini race car, I would probably start with a 1275 engine. The body is kind of inconsequential. And I'd probably go down the carb route unless you're doing something more involved, like some newer ignition system. For a daily driver, just a simple carbed, probably 1100 cc or bigger engine, maybe a 998, depending on where you are. If you've got a lot of highway stuff, I'd probably lean to the 1100. So that would probably be what I would recommend. Connor says, charcoal canisters were added to the last carb motors for fuel economy and emissions in 93 and 94. Excess fuel vapor from the carbs and tank get drawn into the charcoal canister and back into the carb. That's really weird. I've not heard of that. I know that like charcoal canisters and like soot canisters are used on diesel engines. Not heard that on the Mini. That's interesting. I would probably just delete it but I don't know that it really robs it of any power. Maybe it does. Let's see, what else do we have? Trevor says, I'm heading over to Chattanooga today to pick up the 64 Midget. Oh, that's exciting. I'm assuming Chattanooga, Tennessee. I don't know of any other Chattanoogas. Alex Toon says, been bollocked for being unsociable eating tea. Essex Mini says, you're right there, Mini Tom. Let's see. Mainly Mini says, how long is your shaft? Well, I don't have any shaft right now, so it's kind of short. Don't tell anybody. Scott Jones says, was a 998, but that engine removed before purchase. Oh, okay. Mini Tom says, by the way, hey Cole. Hey Mini Tom. Hey. Simon says, congrats on the gearbox rebuild, by the way, very useful. I'm glad you're finding it helpful. I have, the case back. If you didn't see the announcement video, that case came back. Let me just switch the camera around here. New case right here, and all of the kind of odds and ends that came with that gearbox. This is the one from Paul Jeffries, which looked like it had been sitting at the bottom of the ocean. It's really, really cleaned up quite well. And then over here, we have the remote gearbox. That one is not taken apart yet, but I've just been kind of putting that one off because I don't like the idea of having two gearboxes apart at the same time in one garage. As you guys can probably imagine, that would not be ideal. Okay. Alistair says, what's a reasonable price for a 998 engine? I am not really sure. It depends where you are, because that like rare early Cooper engine that I have, like apparently I got it for a steal, and I didn't realize that was $300 US. It was also in really, really rough shape. It had definitely been sitting outside for a while. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe some of the commenters can give you an idea of how much a 998 should cost. Frosky Gamer says, I'm 15 years old and from Germany, and we build my Mini 1972 with the 850. Oh, I feel like, have you been chatting to me on Instagram? I feel like somebody has sent me some video or pictures of an 850cc. Maybe I'm getting you mixed up with somebody. Mainly Minis says, planning on a future turbo build, so please do one before me. Even if I do one before you, which I'm hoping to do one, you know, relatively early in the year. I don't know how much help I'll be because I don't know diddly about turbo builds, so it'll be a learning process. Maybe I can make the mistake so you don't have to. Mark Price says, what's the biggest mini rally in the USA? So there's not really any big mini races, at least mini specific races here that I'm aware of. I'm sure there probably are, but I just don't know about them. There are three events that are really cool. Two of them are not mini specific. One is the Alcan 5,000, 3,000, I forget the thousandth. But that happens on the West Coast in California. 7 Mini Parts actually participated in it last year. Basically, they drive from like Northern California all the way up through Canada and into Alaska. They did that with a Mini, which is pretty crazy. Our side of the country, we do a CMU event that's Classic Minis United. That's probably the biggest one on the East Coast, and I'm going to be going to that this year. I go to it I go to every one of them. And that is all driving, all classic minis, classic mini variants, and it's usually in the North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky mountains. And then there is a race that happens in Atlanta, at Road Atlanta, called the Midi, and that is all classic cars. Really, really cool race. I wanted to go to it last year and just didn't get motivated. Ilyas says, what do you think of a half classic car mini trailer? That's the trailer made of the back of the classic mini. Are you ever going to make one for your channel? I think they're pretty cool. I would not chop up a good mini body to do one of those. Maybe I would get like a, well, I don't know, that's still kind of expensive. I was thinking maybe getting a heritage shell and then chopping it up because those are brand new and can be remade. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool. I don't have a welder though, so I think it might be a little much for a little old carport out here. The Gowley says, came here because Tom and Alex told me to. Well, thank you for stopping by. Alistair says, I'm in California. Oh, so if you're in California, I don't know where you are in California, but Auburn, California is where 7 Mini Parts is. And I think they're going to be doing the Alcan again this year, or next year, whenever the next one is. So might be cool to stop by there if you're close by. I know California's big. Just Hendricks says, what are your thoughts? Will I made it to the International Mini Meet in Bristol with the CE next year, the car showing on Project Fergus 96? I don't know. I'm not up to date on that project. I've started watching it, but I don't think I'm up to date with the newest episodes. I'm really behind on my YouTube videos right now. I've got a big backlog. Bradley Clark says, think you should do a shell rebuild, learn to weld. So I do know how to weld. I have been trained in welding when I went to, when I did diesel mechanics. That was what I did before I was a web developer. But it's been quite a few years, and I don't really feel comfortable doing a lot of welding in this carport because it just would get really messy really fast. So I would like to do that. I mean, my Mini was definitely a shell rebuild. I had to get a whole new floor and everything. That was before I knew how to weld though, so I guess it would be cool to do it myself. Frosky Gamer says, do you want to come for International Mini Meet 2019? Yes, I definitely 100% want to come. And I'm doing everything I can to be able to come. The limitation right now is that I will be going to South Africa in March. Which is not cheap for me. It's a long way. It's a long way. We are flying from Charlotte to London. It's an 8-hour flight, roughly 6 to 8 hours. It just kind of depends. We have an hour layover, and then we jump on another flight that's 12 hours to Cape Town. We're going for a friend's wedding. That should be really, really cool. I mean, we're obviously really looking forward to it a lot. And then we also fly back through London, but I don't think we have a long layover there in March. Otherwise, I would try and bother a few of you guys in there while I'm there. So what else do you guys have for me? I think I mentioned at the beginning of this before other people joined, any super chat donations that you do in this stream are going to be going straight to a charity, an Alzheimer's charity here in the United States to help research a cure for Alzheimer's. So if you're interested in donating at the end of the holiday season, get your last minute tax deductions in, you know, hit that super chat. Mini Dan says, my driver's side wheel is rubbing on the front lower part of the wing. Any ideas? Driver's side wheel, so I'm assuming it's right-hand drive in the lower part of the wing. What size wheels do you have? And are your cones new? And how low is your Mini? Mini Tom, just miss your flight back, Cole. We can put you up for the night somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, maybe on the way back I'll just accidentally miss my flight. I'm sure my wife would love that. Actually, she probably would love that because she just loves to travel. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea. Scott Jones says, if Adrian doesn't turn up, I don't mind a late birthday present. Mini Tom, I'm thinking if I did tell her, she would probably be more on board with it. She loves any excuse to go somewhere she hasn't been. Mini Dan says, 12 by 5 standard height, not new cones. I'm thinking the tie bar is maybe bushings. So there's a couple things. So the mini wheels do tend to rub, especially the wider wheels, although the 12 by 5 is not especially wide. When you're right, when the bushings wear, it'll kind of allow it to kind of lean forward. If the car's running too low, which can happen when your cones just are worn out, if they're really, really old, your car can be sitting lower than it needs to, which would allow some more rubbing. And then just some alignment adjustments. Maybe it's out of alignment, but I would check your bushings first, and basically all the suspension bushings, and then also maybe consider replacing your cones if it still doesn't work. If you have high-lows, you probably could turn those up if you don't really feel like replacing your cones, but it's kind of a band-aid. Ilya says, what type of jack do you recommend to carry with you for replacing a flat tire on the road? Scissor jack, original side jack, or hydraulic bottle jack? A floor jack doesn't seem practical to me. So I like bottle jacks because they're compact and they're strong, but I don't carry a jack with me. I have roadside assistance. It's like AAA here and it's pretty inexpensive. Most of the time I've gotten to the point where if my car breaks down like that on the road, if I have a flat tire, I just want to have it towed back home, be done with it, and then I can work on it in my own garage. Just doesn't seem worth it. I don't drive the Mini places that it is a huge deal if I'm late to. So, kind of a trade-off. But I would pick a bottle jack out of the ones that you said. Frosty Gamer says, how do you like the 13-inch wheels on a Mini? I prefer 10-inch wheels, personally. 12s are okay. I just think that it looks way more classic with the 10-inch wheels. And that extra sidewall, or the extra sidewall, just gives you a little bit more cushion. So I think this might be completely just a placebo, but I feel like it's a softer ride. Mini Dan says, thank you, man. I'll try the bushings on the tie bars first and see from there. Is it a hard job? No. The tie bars on the front is very easy. They connect to this little like cup thing on the front of the subframe. Those are really easy to replace. When it gets hard is when you get to the lower control arms, the ones that are on the subframe side. That's kind of a bitch to replace. The cones are pretty involved. Trying to think, there's not really any other bushings aside from your ball joints, but I don't think that those would be causing rubbing unless they're really, really worn. Bradley Clark says bottle jack. There you go. Another vote for bottle jack. What other questions you guys have for me? I'm off today. I got plenty of time. Whatever you guys want to ask. AMA. Do you guys want to see more involved pictures of the toolbox, how I've got my tools laid out? I know a lot of people actually have asked me about that. Mini Dan says, I have a JDM with AC. It's so cool. I'm jealous of your air conditioner because it would be really nice here in North Carolina. Frost Gamer says, how do you come to ride Mini? How did you come to ride Mini? I don't really know what you're asking there, sorry. Alistair says, where did the name Bad Wolf come from? For those of you who don't watch Doctor Who, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and it is from the, I forget what series number it was, but the one with David Tennant and Rose, it's all that season. I just thought it was a cool name, so my wife got that license plate for me, and since North Carolina we don't have to have front plates, just plopped it on there, and then that was all she wrote. Mark Price says, what started your interest in the Mini? I actually had a 2007 Cooper S, the first year they did the turbochargers, and I absolutely loved that car. That was just a blast, and I didn't even know about classic Minis till I owned that one, and owned that new one, and then I found out about them, and then I realized that I wanted a classic more than I wanted the new one, and I forget how it all shook out, but I think I sold the Cooper S, bought a Jetta Sport Wagon or something, and then I got the Mini. I forget the order of operations there. But then I just started tinkering on it, and it just sucked me right in. I loved them. Let's see here. Zongwei says, may I modify oil cooler in my Mini? Are you wanting to install an oil cooler? Is that you're asking? I'm not really sure. What else do we have here? How many Minis have you had? I've actually only had my Mark I Mini, but I've had an opportunity to work on quite a few Minis, working with one of my friends here in Charlotte. He's got all sorts of different Minis that go in and out of his shop, so got to tinker on those over the years. Mini Dan says, should I buy standard bushings for tie bars? I have, hang on. So there are like these purple poly. This is a good like in between. It's not like ultra like rigid, but it's stronger. I would definitely recommend a poly bushing because they'll last forever. But yeah, I'd probably get like the purple. Purple's kind of like a more road spec. Faster Gerbil says, are you planning on building a 1380 engine? I have no plans this year to build a 1380 engine. That could change, but it's not really something that I'm interested in doing. I like doing small displacement or smaller displacement with like boost or head tweaks, things like that. I think the 1380s are cool, but not what I want to do. Eden says, will you do any videos on the electronics as I'm having trouble with installing a new radio? I might do a little bit. Electronics are one of those things that, in my opinion, is really hard to troubleshoot over the internet. As I'm sure that you have figured out if you are looking into doing electrical stuff. It's just difficult to show people how to do it without them being here. I do have a little radio in my car. I could probably do like a tour of how that's plugged in and how it's wired up, which yeah, maybe I'll do that sometime early in the next year. Alistair says, Mini Mania and TCR are pretty good YouTube presence. Do you recommend any other channels? Yes, I do. There's quite a few other channels that I would recommend. MED's channel is awesome. They do these like Friday tech videos and they dive into, it's their products, obviously, they are a business, but they do explain the differences between like camshafts and upgrades on the Mini, which I think are great. So MED, Mini Tom has some really cool, completely lost my train of thought, really cool videos. He's doing a lot of welding on his channel right now, which is great to see. It gives you an insight into, you know, how to weld some of this stuff. He's quite skilled, and good channel to check out. Some new guys, the DJSC, not really new guy, he's been around for a little bit. I like his channel. Oh, who else here? Alex Toon just started up one. He was on here heckling me a little bit ago. His is good. He has some really cool perspective. He is in a wheelchair, and his channel is, he goes into how he drives his Mini, which is really cool. And then he's got Modern Golf R, which is legit. Let's see, what else here? Dave Jag is a really good channel. His has been around a little while. I think they call him the godfather of the YouTubers. I'm not really sure how he got that name, but that's a good one. Mark Price says, what year is your Mark 1? I've got a 61 Austin 7 Mini. So mine is a 1960 Morris. It originally had an 850 in it. I bought it with an Austin America engine. It was already swapped over. I think they call them the Austin Princess in the UK, and yeah, that's what I would. That's the origin of my car, or the year at least. Fast Rebel says, I currently have a problem with my Mini. It heats up while I drive, but cools down while I stop in traffic. Heats while you drive, cools down. Wonder if your fan belt is slipping. When you're in traffic, maybe it's not got enough torque on it to where it would slip, but then when you put load on it, the belt is slipping and then the fan isn't actually spinning faster and cooling your motor. That seems like it would make sense to me, because normally it gets cooler when you drive and heats up when you're sitting still, just the way these Minis are built. Scott Jones says 1380 engines are great, but once you go there, that block is done for future. Exactly it. You know, I think my favorite displacement is what I have on my car, and it's a 1293. It's just a little bit bigger, but not a lot. It's big enough. It's a nice step up to get a little bit more displacement, but you aren't like completely, you know, cutting the block up or anything. Minnie Tom says, thanks for the shout out, Cole, and you said I'm skilled too. You have been drinking. Hey man, I'm just saying, some of the stuff I've seen you do, it's not something that like some beginner guy would know what to do. Especially like, one of the ones that I think you use in your intro is when you like bent that piece for the floor where it like comes up on the side underneath the door sill. That was legit. I mean, that was really good. Ilias says, what type of velocity oil do you recommend for my 92 SPI Mini? It has been off the road for 5 years. Want to put 20W50 in it because I'm afraid that thin oil is going to leak. Owner's manual says 10W30. I always use 20W50, 100%. And I was seeing if I had a bottle of it around here, but I just did an oil change on my car. I use Valvoline VR1, the high zinc conventional oil. There is pen grade 20W50, that's high zinc as well. You're gonna want something with high zinc, is what I'm getting at. But yeah. What else you guys got for me? Scott Jones says, I've had an 850 and 1000. And 8,000 apparently is how you say that. 1100, 1275 current. I had one 1750 in one. Don't ask. Well, I mean, I can't read that and not ask. Was it an A series motor that was like heavily stroked or something? Frosky says, I have an 850cc engine, so I'm going to convert to a 1275. Yeah, I think that would be a considerable step up. The 850s are pretty, they're not fast. They're not fast. It's finally getting warm in here. I've got like plastic on the windows here to seal it up during the winter, because when I'm in here, I don't want to freeze my balls off. Mark Price says, would you fit a straight cut gearbox on your block? I've got a 1460. For a 1460, it's not really a road car anymore, I would imagine. And I probably would. I don't know. I'm not going to do it on my car. I just put that gearbox in there, but I think that, I mean, the majority of your like really loud straight cut noise, from what I've been told, I've not ridden in one, this is what I've read, is it comes from your drop gears. So what's happening, so the gears that are inside your transfer case, wrong side, so from your crankshaft to your idler to your drop gear, or this is a drop gear, this is the I forget, but the noise, the really loud noise, comes from straight cut drop gears versus straight cut internal gears. Alistair says, what are your thoughts on VTECing? I think that it's cool. I think that it's kind of like its own thing. It's still technically, like the outside, sure, it's still a Mini, but it doesn't drive like a Mini it did before. There's a lot of extra weight in that VTEC engine, and making that conversion really changes the geometry of the car, specifically the weight distribution. I think it's really cool, but it just makes it different. But different's not bad, different's just different. Ilya says, what do you think of Duckhem's Classic Q 20W50 engine oil? I don't know that they sell that here. I've not heard of that oil before. Faster Gerbil says, as we started talking about engine displacement, which engine would your dream build be? I'm pretty close to my dream build right now on my Bad Wolf. I think that 1293 with a 7-port head with the injection system that Specialist Components sells, that would be really cool. Or a twin cam conversion, those are really, really cool as well. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it for the A-Series build. If I was to do something outside of the British Motors, I would think, that's a tough one. That is a real tough one. I'd love to do an R1 build, but not on a daily driver. That'd probably be second. Yeah. So what other questions? I'm thinking I'll probably wrap this live chat up here in probably another 5-10 minutes or so. Arsky says, I think from 110 kilometers an hour is over with the 850cc. Yeah, I think that's probably the top end for sure. Can't imagine going much faster with an 850. Maybe if you're going downhill and you put it in neutral. Mini Dan says, what would cause a fuel gauge to not work? There's a few things. So, what year is your car first, before I start giving ideas? Bill Harvey says, have you ever done a 1098 build? I have not. That would be really cool. I'd love to do a 1098 build. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. I haven't done one before. Scott Jones says, sorry Cole, I had a 1750 E-Series engine. Interesting. I'm not familiar with the E-Series motors. That's a British motor? Mini Dan says 1987. So you have your carb motor, but you probably have a newer fuel sending unit. So your fuel sender sits in your fuel tank, and it's got a little arm and with a float on the end. And when there's fuel in the tank, it goes up, and when it's empty, falls down. And based on how far this is bent, there's a little there's two leads that run up to your fuel gauge, and what it's doing is allowing a different amount of electricity effectively through those leads and over into that gauge that then makes it read a certain way. So there are two main points that would fail. Either the fuel sending unit, those have a tendency to fail. The leads might be swapped, or they might be like loose. You can check that. The gauge itself might be bad, or the voltage regulator that sits on the back of the gauge, I think that is on the 87s, that might be bad. So those are kind of your 3 points of failure. Let's see. Bill Harvey says, I've got the choice of a 1079, 1098, or 1293. Choices. I think that I would probably go with the 1293. I think that those are going to be worth the most in the future. But yeah, and you get a lot of flexibility with the 1293. Frost Gamer says, okay, but first should the 850 engine range. I then do my apprenticeship as a car mechanic, and I have not so much money. I mean, it's probably, if you're thinking about rebuilding the 850, it'll probably cost you about $1,500 US. I mean, at rough estimate, I guess that'd be about 1,000 euros, maybe 1,100 euro. But those, to rebuild pretty much any motor, just as is, assuming it doesn't need anything big, that's probably what you're looking at, just with all the machine work and everything. So if you can front that money, then maybe you can sell the 850. I don't know if you can get your money back out of it though. Alistair says, thanks for the giveaway and the live stream. Appreciate your channel. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm happy to help. Mini Tom says, Mini Dan, link the positive and negative in the fuel sender together. If the gauge rises, you have a bad sender. If it doesn't, you have a bad earth or a bad voltage regulator. There you go. Fast Dribble says, is it possible to convert the interior of a Mark IV to an early Mini, especially the dashboard? Some of it, yes. So the dashboards were a little bit different on the later cars. The early cars, the dash rail actually kind of curved a little bit. So the later cars straightened that out a bit so that they could put the full dash that reaches from one end to the other. You could convert most of it though, I think. You know, you'd probably have to put in a parcel shelf in the front there. Your vents you'd have to do something with, because in the Mark I they have these collectors and they go up to the demister. And I think that it's a little bit different on those cars, on the later cars. And then the center gauge binnacle is probably pretty easy to convert, I would guess. You might be omitting some stuff. I don't remember what all is on those later cars. Elias says, have you ever mounted a tachometer in the Classic Mini? Is it difficult, and can I easily replace my 2-clock dash for a 3-clock dash with a tacho? So you should be able to replace those relatively easy. There are kits that take the oval shape and then have another one that sits down on the bottom right. The tack, I think you would need some sort of sensor on your crank pulley to register that. So maybe the tachometer comes with it. You'd have to find some way to mount that up. I don't know if there's any other way to set those up. Probably is. I'm just not sure. But replacing the 2-clock dash is pretty easy. Hey Corey, Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining. I'm actually just getting ready to wrap this up here. But thank you for joining the live stream. Late anyway, it's fine. Oh yes, Corey did I was trying to think of who did that, the rev counter dash. That was you, Corey. That's right. Maybe send me some photos if you want to email me about the dash. I forgot who asked about the dash. Let me scroll back up here. Ilias, if you want to email me, classicminidiy@gmail.com. Corey, if you'd be willing to email some of those photos, I can pass them along to Ilias. Mini Tom says, if you have the 2 clock dash in a later Mini, it's easy to switch out for the 3 clock dash as the tack wiring is already there. 2 wires tucked up behind. See, that's something I don't know because I haven't had a later model car. Thanks, Tom. Scott, hope I get to join in on more streams in the future. Yeah, I think 2 o'clock's a pretty good time. It seems like 1, 2 o'clock here Eastern Standard. However, that's like right in the middle of the workday for me during the week. Scott, keep up the good videos. Oh, by the way, I tagged you on my Instagram with the pics of the V8 Mini drag car. I'll take a look at that after I wrap this up. But thanks everybody for joining. I am going to go ahead and end the stream right now, but I will see you guys next year, just a few days away now, and I guess the gearbox rebuild will be next, assuming I get those gears back from the machine shop. Maybe I'll start taking apart the remote box. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Alrighty. See you guys.